everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And it is a sad episode because this is like the end of peak John Carpenter. I don't think Carpenter was ever at this point of just pumping out these great B cult classic genre films, but we have They Live as I sit across from my Obey poster on my wall and the Obey sticker that I have on my laptop that I'm recording this on. But there is no person I thought would be better for this particular episode than my pal Alex.
Me? Oh, I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
We have definitely talked a lot of Carpenter at diners.
That's
And
for sure.
now it's time to talk some Carpenter on a podcast on
Done.
YouTube. So,
Yeah,
Alex, thanks for coming on.
of course. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I've just before we came on, dude, this movie's been part of my life for a long time. And it definitely influenced a lot of my thoughts and ideas, and maybe even some of my decision making, like through to like the end of my 20s. Along with movies like Fight Club and The Matrix. It definitely it just continues to have life to it. And now that I'm in my mid 30s, I think I view it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it really it's a special film, and anybody, I was just showing it to my girlfriend. Actually, she watched the trailer. She's like, I don't know, I can't tell what the hell this movie's about, but she loves alien movies. Like she likes the type of alien movies that are more like mysteries, like uncovering the spaceship and then like finding the clues, and then then
The
there's like,
Body Snatchers.
yeah, that type of stuff. Not really horror, not really action, but more like a
Mm-hmm.
mystery sci-fi sort of deal. And so I don't know if she would enjoy this quite as much, but I still think she would dig it because it's hilarious.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just fun. And
absolutely.
I think you could tell this is a filmmaker who, with this movie and with Big Trouble, he's having a whole lot of fun, and he's making the film that he wants to make.
Mm-hmm. With the tiny ass budget that he has. But
Right.
for those who haven't tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have three segments here. We start off with some coming attractions, then we'll get to our feature film, They Live, and then have some recommendations for you to leave with. Now, this is an interesting week because a bunch of movies got moved up to Wednesday, which we are recording on the Wednesday because of Easter. So they're like, gotta make that extra money. Um, and the two biggest releases we're going to be talking about, but just throwing out there, we have Owen Wilson's Paint coming out. We have Dennis Quaid's new faith-based Drama in the Sky, On a Wing and a Prayer out on Amazon as of right now as we're recording. And some smaller films like How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Wonderful how-to documentary. Just kidding. But Alex, what movie are you most excited for?
Well, it's hard not to say Super Mario Brothers, man,
Yeah.
because I was playing Super Mario Brothers from the time I was like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, it just looks like so much fun. I bet you this movie's gonna make everybody want to go out and like buy up all the old Mario games,
Mm-hmm.
especially like Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy and stuff like that. Like I played a little bit of Galaxy, but I still, like, once a year. I haven't been able to, because my N64 is shot. It's finally dead, you know. But I love Mario 64, man. That's one of the greatest games ever
Mm-hmm.
made, and
Absolutely.
play it over and over again. And so when I see the trailer, I'm like, oh man, this just looks like a good time.
I lost it when they showed Rainbow Road for the first time. And then I realized how many friendships could have died playing Mario Kart.
Of course. It's funny. My buddies would always choose that. I hated that level. They would always choose that
It's one of the toughest
level.
levels to drive on.
Yeah, and
It's
they would choose it just because they knew that I hated it.
jerks. Um, it my my big reservation with it is Illumination, and I really do not have a whole lot of faith in that studio, the Minion House.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
like Secret Life of Pets and The Grinch and stuff like that were just kind of like, eh. But and
sure.
we'll say what you will about some of the casting, Chris Pratt, uh, and just Seth Rogen being Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Yeah, it's just Seth
um,
Rogen.
but I'm all about that Jack Black Bowser, and I need it in my life right now. So
Hey,
I will be
there you
seeing
go.
this Friday and hopefully have a blast because it looks like a lot of fun. And
Does-
I hope that's all I'm expecting out of this is to have a bunch of fun. Now, one movie that I had no expectations for going into 2023 and then realizing Ben Affleck is back in the director's chair.
Oh
He had a
yeah.
little blip with Fly By Night, but Gone Baby Gone, The Town, and Argo
Oh
were some
yeah.
big home runs for him. And now he has Air, about
Wow.
the creation of Air Jordans, starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Jason Bateman and Viola Davis. And I'm just like, I saw the trailer and you could just hear Sister Christian like dun, 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 a motor rain and just like this is gonna be the most 80s movie I think out there.
Yeah, sure.
It's getting
Oh yeah.
amazing reviews. So it sounds like Ben Affleck's got it back on straight with his directing. And you know, it always amazes me when a movie can make something out of like who cares about the creation of Air Jordans and
Right.
then make a really engaging and fun movie apparently out of it. They have a new movie coming out about the creation of blackberries and stuff like that.
Huh?
Yeah. And it's an IFC film. So
Oh
like
really?
this isn't like just some random like
Wow.
it's like oh, it's a
IFC.
classy
IFC
film.
is still doing its thing. Huh.
Yep.
Interesting.
So it's an interesting variety of movies coming out this weekend. Last time I saw, I think Super Mario Brothers was tracking for like $95 million this weekend for the 5 days. So like I'm sure Illumination would be happy. They
Oh
sure know how to
sure.
make money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and but this is going to be interesting because it's funny that Sonic, because it's funny because Mario ends up beating Sonic in the video game wars, but Sonic's the one who ends up being like the first video game movie that people are like, actually, that was
Wait a
that was
minute.
fun. That was
Yeah.
that was a good time. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't suck. It wasn't great, but it was just a fun movie. Who would have known Jim Carrey and Sonic,
Well,
boo.
and besides 15 minutes of the sequel, I thought the sequel was great.
Oh yeah, nice. It was. I didn't see the sequel. I saw the first one, and I walked out. I said, "Hey, I had a great time. It was a good
Yeah.
time at the movie."
The second one ups the ante and it's like really Sonic and
Yeah.
it's so much fun. And then there's like 15 minutes where it goes to like a destination wedding randomly, and you're just like,
Huh?
what's going on here? And then it gets back to the rest of the
Yeah.
movie. You're just like, okay, I'm okay now.
Well, what'll be interesting? We don't have to go into depth on this
Yeah.
pod. Is this now Mario's there? It's going to open. Is that going to open the door for a Zelda movie, that Metroid movie,
Oh my God.
a Mega Man movie? Like I would lose my brain.
If a real Legend of Zelda trailer came out for like an actual ass movie, I would lose my shit.
Everybody will. Oh yeah, totally. Of course. The that's gonna be so when I was a teenager, I used to fantasize because I was a video game nerd. I used
Yeah.
to fantasize. I had my own, like I didn't have a script, but I had my own plot points, like a lot of us, I'm sure we did. Like
If
I had my whole ending. I have this really emotional like ending mapped out and everything. I got the whole thing mapped out still in my head. And
if it were 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would want Liam Neeson Ganondorf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he's a little old at this point, and I don't know if I want to see him doing that.
Michael Fassbender is the guy now, if you ask me, you know. And I would still have Clive Owen do it just because I think Clive Owen is the man, but
Oh,
he's probably too old now.
that's interesting. I like that casting.
But you remember though, Shane, like you can be old. In fact, it might be good for the person to be an older guy.
I'm just imagining like the physical. Like I don't need to watch a movie where there's 16 edits just to have Liam Neeson like swing a sword, like kind of
No,
thing.
no, you don't want that.
No, I don't need that. I don't need
No.
Taken 3 in my Legend of Zelda movie. So like I'm trying to think like somebody who could still physically get involved, but they turn into Ganon, doesn't matter. Just giant
Well,
monster.
yeah,
But,
that'd be
but
awesome. We'll never get to They Live if we talk about who's going to be Link, but that's going to happen someday now because they're going to make money. It's going to happen.
that I feel like that's the one that like come on. It would probably be like it has the most potential to be a movie.
It also has the most potential to fail.
Yeah,
You know,
fantasies are hard.
and this tough. It is tough. Yeah.
Especially if they make it live action. Oh, if they do an animated movie, Liam Neeson definitely better be playing Ganondorf.
There you go. Then he doesn't have to. He could just show up. He could do it from his house.
Exactly. Now, those are our coming attractions, but now our feature film, which is They Live. So I'm still convinced that Kurt Russell had something else going on. And John Carpenter couldn't cast him and They Live. So
Yeah.
then he got Rowdy Roddy Piper, which I as I can relate because Alex and I, for varying degrees throughout our lives, have been wrestling fans.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of getting back into it, but after this week's news, I don't know if I am anymore. We can talk about that later. Um, but Rowdy Roddy Piper stars in this as John Nada. And side note, it amazes me how big of a man he actually is
He
because
was
when he's
huge.
fighting like Hulk Hogan, he just looks like a normal dude. And then you put him in a movie with normal people, and it's just like, holy crap.
Well, so he was not this big when he was in the ring. So he was big. He worked out, but he obviously prepared a little bit differently for this role,
He was
whether it was all
huge.
natural or not.
Yep.
I'm sure it wasn't, I'm sure he took steroids for this. He looks amazing. He looks like out of a comic book.
Yep.
Oh,
And this man, he's a wanderer. He is going city to city, job to job. When he finds a little camp of people who are misplaced, and there's a church, and he finds these black sunglasses, and then he sees the world for how it really is.
yeah.
Aliens.
Yeah.
Now, this starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, Keith David, an alum of John Carpenter films, and a
Yeah.
whole lot of like George Buckflower, Peter Jason, a lot of these like small character actors that have popped up in a lot of John Carpenter's films. But Alex, what are your general thoughts on They Live?
Well, you know, to start off, like I'm kind of glad that it's Piper now, and because I love Kurt Russell and everything, especially with Carpenter.
Yep.
They had such a great actor director relationship.
Mm.
Um, I almost feel like if you cast Kurt Russell, you should have made it like a real movie and not just a B movie.
Yeah.
But
And maybe that back alley brawl only lasts like 2 minutes.
exactly. But because it's Piper, and I let's give Piper credit, God rest his soul.
Yep.
He's awesome in this. He
Mhm.
obviously has some shots where he's like doing the scratch and sniff acting because he doesn't know what else to do. He's only been acting for a few weeks, maybe, or maybe
Mhm.
he did some other stuff, but he he's great for this movie. And the ironic thing, to get back on the wrestling thing for a moment, the ironic thing about it is that Vince McMahon, his favorite president is Ronald Reagan. Favorite, favorite.
Yep.
Quote, they would quote him all the time and use him in the video packages and everything. His hair even is done up the same way. you know um Hogan did superhero movies that were really part of the brand of
Yep.
what Hogan and WWF was.
Barbed wire.
Yeah, barbed
Oh
wire,
no.
three
What was it? No
ninjas,
holds barred.
no
Yeah.
no holds barred.
Yeah.
Yeah. you know Wasn't barbed wire with like Pam Anderson or something like
Yep.
that?
I completely mixed those two titles up. They sound equally ridiculous and are equally
Both.
ridiculous in
It's the
different
same
ways.
movie, just one has Pam Anderson and one has Hulk
That's Hulk
Hogan.
Hogan.
But this he now you have one of the top pro wrestlers. He goes and he makes an in a lot of ways, anti-Reagan movie. This is an
Yep.
anti-Reaganomics movie. Is it an
100%.
anti-capitalism? I think John Carpenter said it's not anti-capitalism, but it's to me, as a 36-year-old now, it's just a caution and a warning to the things that say no independent thought and conform, obey the dollar sign that says this is your God. It's a warning to say,
Mhm.
like, hey, like, don't fall for this. Your who you are does not have to be controlled, mind controlled, behavior control by these elements and these forces that push and pull you in these different directions. You're still an individual, you
Mhm.
know and I think that that's what Carpenter was trying to do, and would still say that he was trying to do with the essay of the movie. That those are my thoughts. Those are the kind of the everlasting thoughts of the movie. Is it's a caution and a warning to say, like, you are an individual, you have the freedom of thought and
Yep.
imagination. That's the most beautiful thing about it for me.
Yeah, and it's a lower budget. It's like that pendulum swing of Carpenter went like Starman and stuff like that were like studio films and had some bigger budgets and stuff like that. And you can definitely feel like Prince of Darkness, which I just watched for the first time. This was more going back to like his roots of like smaller scale kind of sci-fi, except with humongous ideas that probably could have used a bigger budget.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a second, but like I think Roddy Piper, like there's definitely moments, like some of the quieter moments where he's not throwing around one-liners, that he's a little stiff.
Yes.
Like the opening scene where he's talking to that lady, that kind of feels like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and you have same kind of thing with like the John Carpenter score, where it's instead of a bunch of tones, it's like
Yeah. It's like this
yeah,
down, down. Yeah, it's like this bluesy,
it's
know.
basically Diesel's theme from WWE. It's that bluesy kind of like guitar riffing kind of thing, and it's just like cool and slow, and because like Nate is a wanderer, he's kind of a nomad.
Right.
I love like the whenever he had the little glasses on, the black and white, the like you said, the this is your God now, and the consume, obey, um, reproduce, and all those kinds of things. But damn, is this movie funny? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you see
Oh,
her, she's fine. You real formaldehyde face, like that. You can tell where Piper's really getting into it,
yeah.
and
Oh, sure.
uh, Mother Nature's a real bitch. She's back in heat.
Back in heat. I think
Back
that
in
was Matt. I
heat.
think that was Matt's favorite line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're gonna put on those sunglasses, or I'm gonna make you eat this trash can. And
So that whole fight scene
yes,
is incredible. And
incredible.
yeah, I mean, put on the glasses. Put on the glasses. He goes straight full Piper. That's his
Yep.
best part of the, like, as an actor. That's his best acting the whole movie, because he can just be himself.
Yep.
He's just being himself in that whole sequence.
There's oh, my favorite sequence in that fight is when Piper swings that big stick, smashes the back window, and then you realize, oh crap, like we could actually kill each other. And Piper's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm sorry. And
He
he
laughs.
smashes the
He actually
bottle,
laughs.
and then Piper laughs, and it's just like, did they just leave that in there?
I hope
They
so.
had to.
I hope so, because he laughs and then Keith David freaking just like goes right back at
Yeah.
him. It's amazing. It's amazing because it felt so real. It felt so
Yeah.
authentic, and like you can't like make that up. It's just
No.
awesome.
And it was a brutal and visceral scene, and Carpenter just let him at it.
Do it, and
Um,
and give Carpenter credit, because the way they blocked it, and
yep.
the way those two choreographed it was it's legendary. You can go back and watch that fight scene over and over and over again. It's anybody who wants to do action movies. So I'm not a big fan of action movies, but when they're done well, I'm hooked.
Yep.
I'm just like anything else. If a Western is done well, I'm hooked in. I'm not a big Western fan, but if they're
Mhm.
done well, I'm freaking into it. And same thing with the action movies. Like, you want to know how to make an action movie or action scene, watch these two. Like, it's amazing the way they choreographed it. It's
Well,
incredible.
and Carpenter is such a fantastic director, and he's one of those kinds of directors where I think he hit a wall, and then he knew when to like finally just walk away and
Sure.
just be like,
Yeah.
I'm done. And
Yeah.
because like not everybody Scorsese and Spielberg who are like making great films into the 2020s when they started in the 60s and
Right.
stuff like that. But like Carpenter
Sure.
had such a uh, from my own personal enjoyment standpoint, his prime,
Mhm.
like if I'm saying like Halloween Until They Live is like
Yeah.
his prime, that is some great shit. Some great shit.
Sure. And yeah, so I still, well, we'll go back to They Live in a moment, but I still need to, I really want to watch Starman,
Mhm.
because I like Jeff Bridges, obviously.
Oh, Jeff Bridges got nominated for an Oscar for that.
Yeah, I need to see that. My boss even said, "Oh yeah, that's a great movie." I still haven't seen it.
There's a couple moments in it where you're like, yep, that's a Carpenter movie.
Okay.
And but like you could tell like it's a much bigger budget and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
Um
so so for I was going to ask you, because you mentioned the whole thing about this being small budget. Do you wish that you could have seen a version that was like another 5-10 million dollars?
I feel
Or
like this and Escape from New York have their moments where you can tell that I feel like his scope is a little bit bigger than what money he had. Like
right,
I feel
right,
like the third act of this movie feels so rushed. Like the second they go through the portal until the end should not feel like it's 5 minutes.
right, right.
And because
Yeah.
that's the thing, it's like I don't think they could afford to do like bigger set piece or something bigger
Uh,
like that. And
right.
I just feel like on some level, like would I change it? No. Do I need a remake? No.
No,
No.
terrible. Don't do
No.
that.
No. Like the interesting thing is I feel like there's one director today that captures the filmmaking feel of Carpenter,
Mm,
but which is so interesting because they have completely opposite philosophies on the world. Craig S. Zahler, who did Bone Tomahawk,
okay.
Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete, is like they feel like a Carpenter film. They
Right.
have that like gritty, B movie culty kind of feel, and like he even has some tendencies that kind of feel like John Carpenter. But the thing is, like he writes for libertarian journals and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like, would he make They Live? Probably not.
Probably
um,
not.
I
No,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the thing is, like, which it's hilarious because John Carpenter like talks about his relationship with Kurt Russell. They just don't talk politics because like they're complete
Oh, really?
opposites. And but the thing is, it's like I do not want to see any other versions of this at this point. Just leave this movie in its perfection of what it is.
What? And I thought about this because we've talked about this movie a lot. What about a prequel or a sequel?
I like I he I feel like any sequel, if you have a good idea and you execute it well, it works. Did I think we needed Toy Story 4? Hell no. Did it work? Yeah. Do I think we need a fifth one? Absolutely not. But
They make them good though.
they
Yeah,
haven't done
no.
them wrong yet.
I was
So
Niagara Falls at the end of I think it was the second or the third one. It
yeah.
freaking got me. It
So
got me.
I feel like there's potential. Like this world's open now. What
Yeah.
happens? Because this movie has to have some of the my favorite final shots in a Carpenter movie
Oh, sure.
because it's so cheeky. Just like he just like rips like the fact that you see the bar and the TV and it's Ebert and
Yes. Siskel and
Siskel
Ebert.
and Ebert and it's just like, oh
I
my
was
god.
so I didn't notice that was Siskel and Ebert until this viewing. I watched it
Yeah.
today, and I was looking on YouTube for them for their review of it. I couldn't find it. I don't know if they didn't review it or maybe because they, he because of the burn in the movie, maybe they avoided, you know.
I don't know. I would have loved to hear their thoughts. Because the thing, like they're talking about John Carpenter movies, which I'm like, wow, Carpenter, you went
Yeah.
there. But then the last shot of that woman on top of that guy, and then it cuts down and he's down like, "What's wrong, baby?"
Yeah,
Cuts to the credits.
of course.
Oh, this
Yeah.
movie is so funny.
Right, and that's it, and that was also, it's weird too because it's he's black, he's black, right? I mean, I assume he's a man of color, and she's like a white woman with blonde hair. So
I guess because we don't see any of his body, do we?
yeah,
Do
I
we?
think so. They show him like laying down in the bed, and he gets up and goes, "What's wrong, baby?" Like
Yeah, but he was an alien.
he was an alien, but he's also black. So I don't know what that's supposed to say. I'm not sure what he's trying to say, but I always thought that
You know what? I
there
never really
was
thought about that.
I always thought there was some sort of connotation. I don't know, maybe throwing it in other people's faces, the biracial thing. I don't
Could
know.
be. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah,
Like
I
if
was
that was the
especially not
case.
John Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that moment just gets me every time because it's so ridiculous and so
Yeah.
great. And it has this movie has a lot of big ideas and it lays them all out there for you. It has very visceral moments, like that assault on their secret meeting is just brutal. Like people are
Oh
just
yeah.
getting gunned down like crazy. And them destroying the little camp earlier in the film too and beating the crap out of like blind man and like all kinds of stuff. It's like this movie does not pull punches. Really
No.
doesn't.
No,
Piper
it doesn't.
certainly didn't. Uh, him and Keith David beat the crap out of each other. You have so many interesting ideas. I do like there's one character in this that like I think thought about this more this time around watching it. Holly, Meg Foster's character, where I'm just kind of like how important was she really to this story? But like she has some, they write her in big moments.
Yeah.
One particular is shocking as hell. That still makes me sad every time in the stairwell.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, because you love Keith David's character so much.
Love Keith,
Right?
love Frank.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no.
And it's so low budget the way he does it too.
Yup.
Like it's just the gun on the head, and then it just like it's a spark over the
And
screen.
then cut. And it was perfect that way because it was more shocking that way. And it just
Uh-huh.
really worked.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And what I love so much about my Welcome to the Wasteland show, going through all these directors, is like I've gotten such a. I feel like the only one that only directors that I didn't get like a much deeper appreciation for is the Coen brothers, since I already seen all their movies multiple times before I did them on here. But like Kubrick and definitely Scorsese. Scorsese gave me so much deeper appreciation. And doing this Carpenter on here, like John Carpenter's moved up into, like, I'm writing an article about my top 10 favorite directors, and like Carpenter
Wow.
squeaked in there because like I just love some of his films so much. And I love the way that he makes films. I love his music. I love so much the fact that he had no intention of going out and making any just straight dramas.
Right.
These are
Right.
genre films that he elevates and delivers on with great filmmaking. Like the
Mhm.
closest thing to just a straight drama he ever did was just Elvis, the
Okay.
Elvis TV movie that he did
Right.
with Kurt Russell in it.
Sure. Of
Uh,
course.
but like I just love the fact, and like this film feels so Carpenter.
Yeah.
And I just love that about it. Because like you could tell from the filmmaking techniques, the music, everything just feels like his voice. And it's so, and like you could tell that this was a return to that for him after he did some studio movies.
Sure. Sure.
And then I just preemptively watched Memoirs of the Invisible Man, which I'll be doing next week. And it just made me miss They Live,
Right.
because it's just like, it just doesn't feel like Carpenter.
That came right after.
It came 4 years after.
Oh wow. Okay.
It is
Yeah.
his next film, but like he had a 4 year gap.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
a big studio movie with like Chevy Chase and
Okay.
Daryl
Yeah.
Hannah. And like
At the time, those are pretty
apparently it was a
big.
complete and utter nightmare because Chevy Chase is an asshole. So
That's what everybody says.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, this film clicks on so many different levels, and it has
What
ideas, it has great filmmaking, has great action and great genre sci-fi elements to it.
what would you like compared to Scorsese, Kubrick, Spielberg? What sets Carpenter his films apart? What is it about his movies and the way he makes them that makes him like different than them and stand out for you?
I think he has such a distinct voice. And in terms of like his visual filmmaking, and it's very interesting because watching his original student film,
Mm.
uh Captain Voyeur, he's a very voyeuristic filmmaker.
Oh,
There is a creeping and wandering camera
uh-huh.
in so many of his films, and you're in it with it.
Right.
There's so many great moments. Like The Thing works so well because the paranoia keeps ratcheting up. Because like,
Yeah.
are we one of the characters? Are we just creeping around
Mhm.
this dark, cold place? And even this, like the visceralness, like you feel like you're running around being chased by these like powerful forces that are like destroying this camp of people who don't have homes, or destroy, like coming in and shooting up this secret meeting. And like we feel like we're running down that alley with them. And I feel like those are the
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
things that Carpenter does so well. And everything feels so blocked so well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's just a feel to his films that they don't feel like they're ashamed to be genre films.
Right.
And, you know, Spielberg does plenty of genre films. He bounces, like he released Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year. Like he
Wow.
unabashedly can go and do whatever
Crazy.
genre he wants.
Crazy.
You're never going to see Scorsese do a horror movie or a sci-fi movie or a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
And like Scorsese obviously has a very specific kind of film that he's trying to make. I feel like Carpenter experiments. He's willing to try things. He has a dark sense of humor that I appreciate. Like even like something like The Thing shouldn't be funny, but when Kurt Russell yells, "Well, F you too," chucks that
Yeah. That line, I think I have that line in my head like every week.
yeah. And just like he has that sense of humor about it. And you could tell when he does not have full creative control over his movies because there feels like it's something lacking about it. But like when it's him doing his thing, like Halloween gets written off as just one of the iconic early slasher movies. It gets put in with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. No
Sure.
offense, shouldn't be in the same conversation.
Interesting.
Halloween's on another level.
Okay.
It did need blood and guts everywhere
Right.
because it's not about that.
Right.
Some of the scariest moments in Halloween is the day stalking,
Right.
the creeping camera, that
Right.
shot at the beginning of the film of Michael with the mask on, and then amazing reveal that they pull the mask off and it's a child. Just all of that works on another level. And Carpenter is such a fantastic director. And knows how to build tension. He knows how to engross his audience. It's one of those kinds of things where he goes all in on a concept, no matter how crazy it is. Like nobody in their right mind should have made Big Trouble in Little China. Nobody. Like nobody in their right mind should have made that movie. But he did, and we're glad for it.
Right.
And like this
Yeah.
film, like
You
who
know,
would make this movie? They
I
live.
know exactly. No, and that's what I love about him is that
Mm,
there these movies that he made during that time, especially They Live and Big Trouble. I don't think anybody else really could have made them. They could have tried, but they wouldn't have gotten away with it. And they wouldn't have had like the masterful way of shooting the way he
mhm,
does to be able to pull it off. Um, there's this I've always liked him because I feel like there's this shotgun filmmaking about him.
mhm.
Like it really does feel, and I'm sure a lot of it was planned, you
Yeah.
know, but there's also some stuff that just feels so like, okay, we got to go. Let's screw it. You do this, you think, like it really does feel like spontaneous, whether it's
Mhm,
intentional or not. There's something spontaneous about his filmmaking. Um, that just feels so fresh and
mhm.
fun, and it kind of makes you want to be a filmmaker. It feels so on the ground,
Yeah.
and like it's like, oh man, I kind of want to be a filmmaker now, or I want to do something creative, because there does feel like there's this DIY element to this series of films, because it's not a lot of money, it's not like
Mhm.
major star power. It just feels like he's making films with some good actors and some people who really care about making it. And like even Escape from New York, like like I have my qualms with that movie. It has its flaws, but I still kind of love it. I always want to like it more than I actually do, but I love the music, I love the titles, I love the main character,
Yeah.
I love some of the dumb things in it, and I love some of the dark things about it too. I think Lee Van Cleef is freaking amazing, but
Liskin.
Yeah. I love the way he rips the tape up at the end. I freaking like, oh God, it's so badass, like
Oh,
there's all these wonderful little things that are done so well,
yeah.
but none of his movies are perfect. I kind of like that about him. It kind of makes him, I don't know, closer to the best in a way. It feels like he left his movies a little not perfect. Like he left them a little sloppy.
I feel like the only film that he's made that feels like what most people consider like a traditional like masterclass in filmmaking is probably The Thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And because like, there's definitely
right.
moments in
There's a
Halloween.
methodical pace to
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah.
And maybe that's why I got Ennio Morricone to do the score.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm making a real movie. Gonna get a real composer.
Gotta get a real composed, right, exactly.
So then I kind of just get to do a score that I probably could have done and maybe wrote, I don't know. Because it still feels like one of his scores anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like They Live is just a lot of fun, and it's one of those kinds of movies like I could just throw this on and watch it anytime and
Yeah,
just get completely lost in it.
totally.
But
Yeah.
if all of you haven't seen it yet, I don't know why you sat through us spoiling this whole entire movie for you. But hopefully you stopped it and go watched it first. But if you haven't watched it yet, you should go check it out. And unfortunately, this does kind of end a big chapter in Carpenter's career. I'll be interested to watch some of the films that I haven't seen yet. Still a fan of In the Mouth of Madness. That's one that I have. Actually, that is the only one that I've seen post They Live before me marathoning all of these. So I'll be interested to see like Escape from LA,
Oh boy.
Ghosts of
Yeah.
Mars, and I am kind of interested in watching his Village of the Damned
Mhm.
and Vampires, but
Sure.
we shall see. But we have some recommendations to wrap things up for you. So, Alex, what would you like to recommend to the people that not enough people have seen?
That's right. Edge of Tomorrow, baby. You gotta watch that. They've been showing it on HBO or Showtime, one of those. Just go
Hmm.
watch Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, go check it out. It's awesome. If you're not a Tom Cruise fan because of the Scientology thing, just throw all that off the window. Go watch Edge of Tomorrow.
You get to watch him die a lot, so Groundhog Day meets big action sci-fi film,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing that in theaters when that came out and just having an amazing time. And then nobody else saw it. And all of us five people who have been like, where's the love for
Yeah.
Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of
That's
Tomorrow,
right.
which they've rebranded it on DVD and
Right.
stuff like
They're
that.
talking about trying to do a sequel now, which I don't know if that's going to get made just because of the, you know.
I don't know what it would be about.
Right,
That's the thing.
exactly.
Is it more
Right.
different aliens? I don't know.
I don't think that's necessary. A Nice Guys sequel is very necessary, though. That's very freaking necessary.
Oh my God, did you see Russell Crowe giving us hope today?
No,
He
no.
was getting interviewed about it.
Oh, really?
And he's like, Brian and I are trying to brainstorm titles and have this great idea. The Nice Guys, Mexican PIs, Mexican detectives. We get caught up in Mexico and have to pretend to be Mexican detectives. I'm just like, oh my God.
Just do
Shane
it.
Black,
Do
get
it.
on it.
Just do it. You made your money with your dumb Alien versus Predator movie. Now go do Nice Guys again.
Yes. Bring us Nice Guys. I have a couple recommendations. I always like to do a new film, watch list, first time watch, and rewatching one of my own movies. Um, this is a very specific recommendation, and it's called Malum. It is like a claustrophobic Resident Evil meet Hellraiser kind of crazy trapped in decom uh a decommissioned police station late at night, and some kind of cult opens up all kinds of weird stuff to like this Hellraiser-esque demonic crap. And I was sitting in the theater scared out of my mind. I'm like, there was a part of me that was like, I kind of want to walk out for a bit,
Yeah,
get a breather. That's really
sure.
stressful. Except the thing is, like, I feel like it just spiraled like narratively to like nowhere. But like from like a horror standpoint, I think it really works.
Oh wow.
I don't think it
Yeah,
was really satisfying, like from a story standpoint,
sure.
but it has its moments. Something I watched off of my watch list on Friday, got to watch this with my friend Paige, was Black Christmas.
Oh God.
The original Black Christmas, which the remake I hated.
Oh, this is the original.
The
Oh, okay.
original. And this is such a creepy, surprisingly intelligent like slasher film.
Yeah.
Like they're like the cops actually make decent choices in this movie.
Oh,
And it has like a shock, like the cast was interesting because it was the young woman who played Juliet and that Romeo and Juliet that every single human being in the state of New Jersey watched in English class at some point.
oh, okay.
Like that, like 70s Romeo and Juliet, she's the main character.
Oh, okay.
Margot Kidder from
Oh, wow.
Superman. And uh Care Dulia from 2001 A Space Odyssey was in this. I'm like, you did other movies that wasn't 2001 A Space
Right.
Odyssey. But it's a really creepy, like killers calling you, freaking you out, kind of like it definitely felt like, oh, wait a minute, there had to be a movie that started all these tropes, uh, kind of thing. And it works. It's very visceral,
Wow.
it's very voyeuristic. It definitely has that like POV creepy camera creeping through the house kind of thing
Sure.
going for it. I enjoyed it. I had a fun time with it. Not perfect. It has its flaws, but like it gets you all the way up until the end.
Yeah.
It was the
Sounds like
remake
Scream.
of
That
it.
sounds a lot like Scream.
There definitely had to be some influences from Wes Craven from
Yeah.
this movie. But like there's the remake made like sorry to spoil a horrible remake that none of you should watch anyway. But like the twist in the remake is like the killers were this like super sexist fraternity that like
Oh, that's the one you're talking about. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but like this had nothing to do with that. This was much more sinister and creepy and unnerving. I'm just like, I'm kind of glad that like this didn't have that kind of because like I didn't know what they changed for the remake, but I knew a lot of people were mad about it. But
Yeah.
I would recommend this one. I enjoyed it. And then I rewatched What We Do in the Shadows for a podcast I'm going to be recording in a couple weeks, and I could watch the 80-minute mockumentary about vampires in Wellington, New Zealand,
Sure.
any day of the week.
Oh, it's a mockumentary.
Yeah, so What We Do in the Shadows, the film is a documentary team following around a group of vampires who share a flat in New Zealand. And you have Viago, who's Taika Waititi, who is a very like dainty kind of vampire. And then you have Deacon, who's like the cool young vampire. And then you have Jermaine Clement, who's Vlad the Impaler.
Ah, badass.
He's Dracula basically.
Wow.
And, oh my god, he's like welcome to my torture dungeon. And he has a torture dungeon. And then they have Peter, who's like a Nosferatu looking like
Yeah.
vampire who lives in the basement in like an actual like stone coffin like casket and everything. And it's it's such a great movie, and then the show that spun off from it is amazing. That's one of my favorite shows on TV, so I'd recommend both of them.
Did
Uh,
Taika Waititi direct the movie?
he
Or
did. He directed the film, and him and Jermaine Clement wrote the film.
oh, okay.
And
Okay.
then Jermaine Clement has been one of the main creators of the show. And
Yeah.
like they've both made their cameos and stuff in the show too. One of my favorite gags from the movie is that they have a gang of werewolves that they get like in a rivalry with, and Rhys Darby from Flight of the Conchords and a whole bunch of other stuff is the head of the. He's like, "Hey, stop swearing! What are we? Werewolves, not swearwolves." Just like I love it. And here's the thing, it's hilarious, but it's legitimately scary at points. Like it balances that really well. And the movie's like 80 minutes. So it's nice, tight, fun time.
Yeah.
So great for a movie night. It's definitely a blast. But Alex, thank you so much as always for coming on.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for that. This was good. This is refreshing. This was a good time.
Thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.